Hello and welcome to the MBM podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. MBM is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at MBM, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hey friends, I just wanted to pop in and talk a little bit about MBM Behind the Scenes. When I entered the yoga world as a teacher, I was surprised by how many yoga teachers were struggling with the business side of yoga. And that's why I created MBM. MBM helps yoga teachers and studio owners become entrepreneurs. It helps you to go from surviving to thriving with your yoga business. I am on a mission to change the yoga industry, to teach yoga teachers and studio owners about the business of yoga, and to help you feel more confident, successful, and abundant. After releasing hundreds of podcast episodes, I want to create content that dives deeper into helping yoga entrepreneurs thrive and elevate their businesses. This is where MBM Behind the Scenes comes in. Each week, you will get bonus content from the weekly guest or myself, diving deeper into how you can take the teachings and apply them to your business. This podcast is designed for yoga teachers and studio owners who are ready to take it to the next level. If you enjoy MBM and have been looking for an affordable way to learn more, this is it. For the cost of 2 lattes per month, you will get never-before-heard content that you can't access anywhere else that will give you tangible ways to dive deeper into your yoga business. If this sounds like something you're interested in, let's dive in. Head on over to patreon.com/MBM Yoga and sign up to get behind the scenes now. Once again, that's patreon.com/MBOM Yoga to get all the exclusive behind the scenes content. I'll see you there. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the MBM podcast. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Offering Tree. Offering Tree makes digital marketing fun, easy, and affordable. They are your one-stop shop for your website, scheduling software, membership management, payment, email newsletter, and more. Keep listening to hear how you can use Offering Tree to spend more time teaching and less time managing. Today on the podcast, I am excited to be chatting with Danielle Hayden. Danielle is a reformed corporate CFO, which is a chief financial officer who is on a mission to help rule-breaking female entrepreneurs understand their numbers so they can gain the confidence needed to create sustainable profits. She is the co-owner of Kickstart Accounting, where she helps business owners with bookkeeping, financial analysis, and education, as well as the author of the Profit Planner book series. And on this episode of the podcast, Danielle and I are diving into all things taxes, accounting, and bookkeeping. Now, if you know me at all, you know this is not my favorite topic. Tax season is definitely not my favorite time of year. And although I'm super passionate about the business side of yoga, I always find taxes, accounting, and bookkeeping a little bit daunting. However, this is something that's necessary as solopreneurs, as entrepreneurs, and as contractors and freelancers. We really, really need to be on top of our numbers. And so on this episode of the show, Danielle and I are diving into how you can start becoming organized with your books, with your accounting, with your taxes, how to do your preparation ahead of time so that you're not rushed at end of year, a couple of tips for systems and strategies, and how to make this a little bit more enjoyable in your business as opposed to something that feels super daunting. Now, I walked away from this episode feeling extremely inspired. I actually sat down and totally rejigged the system that I was using in my business because it just wasn't really working. And I'm feeling so much more empowered by looking at my numbers. And I know that this is definitely from this conversation with Danielle. So I hope that you feel this as well, especially as we head into the end of 2020, the start of 2021. It's time to kickstart with new organizational systems and better habits around taxes, accounting, and bookkeeping. So enjoy this episode. And without further ado, here is Danielle. Welcome to the podcast today, Danielle. I'm really excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this topic today. And I'm curious, where are you joining me from today?
I am in Cleveland, Ohio, and it is actually sunny today. So you have me on a really good mood too.
Oh, amazing. I love it. I'm from Western Canada, so I know what that's all about. When it gets to
Yes,
the cold
yeah.
months, if we have sunny days, you gotta take them.
Oh my goodness, it's just the beginning of a few gloomy months, and you have to just appreciate all the sunshine.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Well, I hope the sunshine continues. And I'm curious if you can tell myself and listeners just a bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the co-founder of profitplannerbookkeeping.com. We help entrepreneurs understand their numbers. I started this journey because I love entrepreneurship, and I was working as a corporate CFO, a chief financial officer, and realized that I was really putting the companies that I worked with, the startups that I was working with, at an unfair advantage, right? They got so many numbers and dashboards and financial information that really allowed them to elevate and use that information to be able to grow their business. And I said, every business owner needs this information. And I am also a wellness junkie. I actually originally started my career before I went into accounting. I was a personal trainer and spinning instructor, and actually taught yoga as well. And so this has been a perfect journey for me, where I get to support studio owners and even independent yoga instructors through their business journey. So I really get to mirror bring together both passions of mine, and being able to help propel forward the wellness industry as well from the business side of things. I just absolutely love what I get to do here.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, speaking from somebody who also works in the yoga space, I think, we definitely need your knowledge and your expertise because, like we were chatting about before we hit record, I think most of the time yoga teachers don't get into teaching yoga because they're really excited about, doing their own taxes or doing their own bookkeeping. And of course, there's some people who have that kind of natural knack for that. Their brains work that way. They really enjoy that piece of things. But I think for the most part, it's not a passion for yoga teachers.
Oh, it's not a passion for most entrepreneurs in general, right? There's very few business owners that we meet who actually like the accounting side. And even if you do, right? Like, I meet people all the time who say, gosh, I'm a numbers person, but I still don't want to do my own bookkeeping, or I still don't really understand what this means, or I still don't really understand what it means for my business. So, even if you have an analytical brain, it doesn't mean you know what you need to know to be able to know the numbers of your business and be able to grow your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think a good place to start is kind of the why behind this all. Like, why is it important for entrepreneurs to understand their numbers?
The most important thing that I can always stress to people is that your numbers are trying to tell you a story, and it's your job as the business owner to listen to that story, right? Because if you don't know your numbers, you really don't know your business. And the numbers allow you to do a few things. They allow you to plan for your taxes. So just, some people come to us and say, I just need my bookkeeping done for my taxes. Well, although I encourage you to look at it from a business side, um, at the end of the day, you do need to be able to prepare for that event. And if you have your bookkeeping complete throughout the year, you can better prepare for that event. So you can save for your taxes. You can adjust your spending depending on whether or not you have a profit or loss. You can pay yourself or the people you have working with you more or less money depending on what your tax situation is. So by knowing the numbers throughout the year, you're really able to become empowered to make decisions to better align yourself for your taxes. I encourage everybody to think of it one step further and being able to just make better business decisions, right? If we had a client who was a studio owner, and she was actually making a pretty big profit for the year, and she had no idea um, she just knew that she had a cash influx in her business. She's a new client. She goes, I'm not sure what's working. I'm not sure like why I have this cash influx. And now I'm not really sure how to reinvest. Right. So by understanding the numbers, she's able to understand what's working, right? Why is it working? And then from there, be able to say, all right, let me double down on what's working. Let me reinvest in my business in a data-driven way and rather than an emotional way, and be able to be really strategic as I close out the year or get started for next year.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think, understanding the picture of your business is so key. And obviously that example is a great one where you find out, oh, I actually made a lot of money this year. But I think maybe a lot of us could get in the other side of things where all of a sudden you realize like, oh, my business isn't turning a profit and you've been investing in all these, different things within your business that you actually can't afford. And I feel like that's a scary part about not knowing your numbers,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not knowing your numbers can be really scary. I mean, being able to make a decision from data helps support yourself emotionally, right? Because, or even spending. I hear some business owners say to me, "Well, I really only bought that course, that program, that conference, or I paid for that advertising or branding or marketing, but I didn't really know if I could afford it." Or I'm not paying myself or giving my contractors or employees a raise because I don't know if I can afford it, right? You end up approaching every decision with fear rather than empowerment and confidence.
Right. That totally makes sense. And so for individuals who are like, okay, enough is enough. I need to start like understanding my numbers. Where do you even begin with something like this?
Let's start at the very beginning. First things first, have your business checking accounts completely separate from your business. You want to have, even if it's a personal credit card, use one for business, one for personal. You really want to draw a line. And this could be, even if you're a full-time instructor who receives a 1099, maybe you're an instructor who goes to several different studios. Keep in mind that if you are a 1099, you are still a business owner. And so it's really important for you to keep that income and your expenses separate from your personal. And then if you're a studio owner, remember, it's always very important for you to keep those expenses completely separate. So that's step one. Step two, I encourage everyone to get into an accounting software. I know that people find that very overwhelming. There's a lot of them out there. Wave is free. Xero is another one. Xero, and then there's QuickBooks. And QuickBooks is still hands down, I think, the most superior product. But get yourself in a system, and if that feels overwhelming, get help. It's okay to ask for help. When I needed to do my website or marketing, I didn't try to do it on my own because I didn't know how to do it. I asked for help. So this is something that you have to take seriously because it really is the heart of your business. And so get help if you need it. So get set up in your system. And then once you have that system set up, you can start pulling in all the places that you're making money and spending money. So we see a lot of studio owners have a retail shop, have an e-commerce shop. Big thing for this year is virtual classes versus in-studio classes. Maybe you're using PayPal, Stripe, Square, line of credit, credit cards. What QuickBooks does is pulls all of those different income and expense places, mechanisms, and pulls them all together so that you can have one picture of your finances.
Right. So you've got everything kind of in one area. So you're not guessing around like what's personal or what is, business related, and you've got a clear idea of what's coming in and what's going out.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're somebody who's listening that you're like, oh shoot, I've been commingling all year. I'm not going to be able to do this for this year. Don't worry about it. QuickBooks has the mechanisms to be able to say, all right, this was personal, this was business. So don't let that be an excuse not to get yourself in a system, whatever day you're listening to this, you can still pull in all of your transactions for this year. And if it was personal, just put it to the personal account. And if it's an expense, the business expense, you could put it to your business. So again, don't let that be an excuse for you to not get going. Just from wherever you are today, go get that separate account and start separating them moving forward. But still make sure you look backwards. It's really fun. So when we work with clients, we'll take all this information in QuickBooks, and at the end of the month, we'll send them a set of financial statements and we'll say, hey, here's how your business is performing. And we give 4 or 5 key metrics. And then we have this awesome report that we like to look at, which is the profit and loss compared to prior year. And so when you load this year's information in, you can start to look at prior year stuff. So in 2021, you can say, oh my goodness, look how much I've grown since 2020, or look how my spending trends have changed year over year. So I love when entrepreneurs go back to the beginning of the year, because then year over year, you can look at that really important fun data.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that definitely makes sense, so that you can kind of see how your business is doing from year to year. And, hopefully as a small business, you're growing year to year. Obviously, 2020 has been a little bit of a chaotic mess for a lot of people. So that might not be the case necessarily this year, but that's okay. There's the years to come in terms of where we can grow and that type of thing. And for people who are maybe not super familiar with this, or who are just getting started, how do you kind of know what is a business expense and what's not? Like in terms of when you're starting to get stuff sorted, so you get your new account set up, you can get QuickBooks set up with that. How do you know where to separate your expenses?
So I like to use the example of think about if you worked for like a corporate job, right? So you're a corporate sales executive, and they are flying you to XYZ for a conference. What would you expect that company to reimburse you for, right? You would expect them to reimburse you for your travel, your meals, because you're on business time, the conference that you attended, anything that you're going to use while you're away, or anything that you're directly using for your business. So that's one example. It helps people when they're, you will be able to travel again, guys, when you're able to. And it does help think about, okay, well, if I was doing this for XYZ company, would I expect to be repaid for this? Would this come out of my pocket or the business's pocket? And then anything that you're directly using in your business. So if you're using props or candles, decorations, you invested in new mats, you have books that you're using for training, a new computer that you're going to use to keep track of students. Anything that you're going to directly use in your business is considered a business expense. Does that help?
Yeah, for sure. So you've got your separate accounts, and then you can figure out what you're directly using in your business and what not. And then so you've got your expenses set up. And then in terms of having, your income come in through your business, then do you pay yourself just from that once you've paid off your business expenses, or how does that work?
So it depends on where you're at in your business and how you're structured. Most people are structured as an LLC. So you'll pay yourself as an owner's draw, which means you're not going to put yourself through payroll or anything. You're going to just have a cash transaction, or transfer to your personal account, or write yourself a check. So you'll pay yourself personally through that. I do not want you to pay yourself what's air quote left over. I want you to pay yourself. I want you to prioritize paying yourself. A lot of people, when we work with a lot of studio owners, we see that people really want to reinvest in their business. So we're constantly seeing people buy more supplies, or consistently reinventing the space that they're in, or reinvesting in advertising and marketing, and maybe even professional development or teacher training. So I want you to think about what you need personally and pay yourself first, or go into it with the plan. I'm going to spend 10% of my revenue on advertising and marketing. I'm going to spend, 20% of my my revenue on the facility, and then maybe another 5 to 10% on continuing to build out my facility. But you need to budget yourself in there. Otherwise, you'll never pay yourself, because you'll always find another another place to spend that money, right? As entrepreneurs, we love to give, and we'll forget to put ourselves as a priority. So the best advice I could give is to go into each month with a plan and spend according to a plan. We go through a budget process with all of our clients where we say, all right, we're going into the next 12 months. This does not have to be at year end. It can be at any time. You can sit down with yourself and say, all right, this is what I did historically, and here's what I'm going to do in the future. And here's what I plan on spending. And that'll help get you paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. And I think, for a lot of yoga teachers, they often kind of maybe don't do this because they're not making, exorbitant amounts of money. And so it's kind of like money comes in, money goes to expenses, and the rest of that money just like sort of pays bills to live, right? There's not like a ton of, I guess, like profit, you could call it. And then, as yoga teachers, another thing, or as independent contractors, another thing we have to keep in mind is that we have to pay, our taxes at the end of the year. And so at the end of the year, it's kind of like anything you might have left over just goes to pay your taxes and any additional fees and that type of thing.
Well, definitely plan for that throughout the year. So that's number one reason, going back to the beginning of the podcast, just look at your numbers throughout the year, right? If you're looking at this on a monthly basis, then you're able to see, all right, I am showing a profit. And so that means I need to be setting aside 25% of my profit to be prepared to pay my taxes next year. So you can start to, open up a savings account. That's what we do with a lot of our clients. At the end of the month, when we send them their financials, we'll say, all right, here's how much you can expect to pay in taxes at the end of the year. Here's how much you should transfer over to your savings account so that you're ready. And the other thing I'll say about that is, if you are getting by to the point where you're not able to pay yourself, I encourage you to go deeper into the numbers. Step one is getting organized and getting familiar with the numbers and getting the system set up. But there are so many, we call them KPIs. There's a lot of key performance indicators that we use with the yoga studios that we work with that can really help you figure out what's working and what's not working, right? It's not just about paying general expenses. It's about looking at, your revenue per client, per membership, per product, per revenue per session. Looking at your average class attendance, why, right? Customer retention rates, your profit margin by class. So if you feel like you are, and there's no shame in this, so many entrepreneurs feel the same way, but if you're somebody who feels like I'm working really hard and I'm not sure why I don't have more to pay myself, then step one, let's get you into an accounting software and help you start to learn from your numbers. And then from there, we can dig in further and look at the key performance indicators that are really going to help you figure out what's working and not working in your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love that, because I think that sometimes when we feel like we're just like working, we're hustling, we're trying to grow our business, it feels like, you pay your bills for the month, like maybe you pay your credit card, your rent, maybe you pay any of your staff or something like that. And then there's just basically nothing left over. It kind of feels like you're just surviving month to month. And I think that in some ways that makes a lot of people kind of want to like turn away from the numbers. Whereas I love how you're talking about like, okay, this is an indicator to like dive deeper in them so that you can really understand each part of your business and the ins and outs of your business and how your business is actually performing.
Yeah, by understanding those pieces, you could start to act from a place of empowerment, right?
Mm-hmm.
when you can start to understand what's working, you can double down on what's working, right? And this seems so novel, but when we had a client last year who, she was really trying a lot of different marketing and advertising campaigns, and she was changing pricing and messaging and branding and customer service. And I said, all right, we have to measure the success of each one of these. Otherwise, we're not going to know what's successful in both client retention and in member acquisition, right? So let's pause and launch one thing at a time. And let's determine what clients are coming in from which activities. Was it the Facebook ads? Was it the new client referral program that we put in? What was working? And now if we know that, then we can do more of that. And if something wasn't working, we can stop. We don't have to permanently run that campaign or run that event just because the yoga studio down the street is, right? I have a client who said that to me the other day. She said, well, my two greatest competitors do these crazy new client specials. And since it's working for them, I feel like I need to keep that going because it's working for them. I said, how do you know it's working for them? Right? You have no idea if they're actually converting. They're converting long-term members from running a new member campaign. They might be losing money on that. And what we found was that she was giving 3 classes for $30 as her new member, discount. Mm-hmm. But her jump from her new member discount to her monthly services was actually too high. And people were kind of in sticker shock. When we actually raised the rate of that introductory period, we had more people converting. And guess what? She was the only person in the area doing that. So she really stood out from her competitors.
Yeah, I love that example. And I think it's really interesting because we do often look at like what other people are doing and what they're pricing things at. And I love what you said about how do you know it's working? Like just because somebody's doing something doesn't mean it's necessarily working, right? Like the only way you're actually going to know that is if you are behind the scenes with that business. Maybe those businesses are having the same conversations around like, we're offering this really great deal. Like, why aren't people purchasing it or why aren't people staying afterwards? And so I think that that's a really good reminder with our own businesses to really get clear on, who our client is and what they need from us and what prices feel good for us for what we're offering.
Yes, absolutely.
I am so excited to welcome back Offering Tree as our sponsor. You've heard me talk about them in the past, and many of you are already among their growing community of happy Offering Tree users. With everything that goes into running your yoga business, Offering Tree created a single platform that can solve all your marketing and time management headaches. With a single account, you can create a website in minutes, set up a newsletter, create a blog, schedule classes, and take payment. The great part is that all of Offering Tree's features work seamlessly together, so you don't need to pay for and manage 5 different services. Instead, you get it all in one easy, affordable package. And now, the big news. Offering Tree makes it easy for you to manage memberships. Annual, semi-annual, tiered offerings. Regardless of types of memberships you offer, you can create them in Offering Tree with the ease of use Offering Tree is becoming famous for. This amazing platform was built by yogis, so you know they get it. Offering Tree also provides helpful tutorials and webinars to keep you growing as a teacher. It's part of their mission as a public benefit corporation. I love their product and their company. They're providing special pricing for MBM listeners. So if you want to spend more time teaching and less time managing your digital presence, then check them out at offeringtree.com/MBOM. Again, that's offeringtree.com/MBOM. All right, now back to the episode. Amazing. And so, at the time of recording, we're at the beginning of November right now, and year end is right around the corner. It feels kind of crazy because I'm Canadian and we got like a massive extension on paying our taxes this year. So I feel like I just made my tax payment like 2 months ago, like in September, which means it's kind of crazy for me to be thinking about the fact that it's coming around once again. But now is the time to start getting organized, to start getting clear on everything. For somebody who is maybe like, oh, I have a lot of work to do and, tax season's coming up. I know we've talked about some of the systems and stuff, but in terms of getting your taxes and your accounting organized for the upcoming year, what are some of your top tips?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really important to remember it's not too late. And it's so funny that you say that. We do have a lot of clients who are like, gosh, I just paid taxes and I can't believe I have to think about this again. So it's a very common feeling this year. The first step would just take the overwhelm out of it, right? 2020 is what it is. We still have to report income on it, right? We still have to report our income. We still have to report our expenses. So I know a lot of people are afraid to look at this information because they know it's not good, right? And that's not a reason to not embrace the numbers. I think we just need to face it head on and start looking at it. And you might find that you're doing better than you thought. You just are burying your head in the sand and not looking at them. So we had a client recently who came to us. She is a local studio owner here in Cleveland. And she said to me, I know that this year has been a train wreck. I just need to figure out how much of a loss I have. So we did what we call a catch up, and everybody can do this on their own, right? You don't need to hire a bookkeeper, however it's available to you. So what we did was we opened up a QuickBooks account for her, structured her income statement. We gathered all the places that she was making money and spending money. We brought it into the system and we processed all the transactions year to date. So that's first step. When you're getting ready for the end of the year, get all this information loaded into your system. Again, if you had personal transactions, no big deal. You just categorize them to the personal account. And that way it's separate from your business transactions. And your bookkeeper or your CPA can help you with that as well. And then from there, what we did was we said, hey, look, now that we have numbers to look at, you can really see and analyze how did the virtual classes actually pan out, right? Is it worth it to continue to offer the virtual classes? We can see what the year-to-date financials actually look like for in-person classes. And then more importantly, we can see where did we spend money, right? We had a lot of studio owners who had to invest money into their studios this year, putting up the protective mechanisms in order for people to open safely and make people feel safe and comfortable. So how many expenses do we have that were one-time only, reinvestments in your business to protect your participants, or are they reoccurring charges that you can expect again next year? And then which transactions, which expenses relate to in-studio classes versus doing things virtually. Some of us forget, right? We're talking on Zoom today. There's a subscription cost to that. So if you're a studio who wasn't doing virtual classes before, and now you've had to add on, maybe it's Zoom or another virtual course provider, you're having to pay somebody to help edit the classes or a second person to direct the virtual class and another person to direct the in-person class. So any expenses that were directly related to you having to pivot your business really should be looked at in great detail as you prepare for year end, because that will help you plan for next year. Look, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean we have to continue to do it. If it's costing you a lot of money to continue to offer virtual classes, you don't have to do that. Or maybe you're really enjoying it and people are loving it from your studio. And now it's time to double down on that and really improve the experience for next year. So first step is to do the catch up. Second step is to analyze it. The third step is to use that information to prepare and to plan to go into next year.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So do the catch up, look at kind of like the whole year coming in and coming out, and basically just looking at like what's been working and what hasn't been working to set ahead a plan for 2021.
Yes, absolutely. And the biggest part of this, guys, is setting a plan. We're really enjoying doing that with our clients right now. it allows us all to kind of put 2020 behind us as we plan for next year, right? We plan for this positivity and this growth, and it really helps us to be able to look at history, look at what happened this year, and then use that information to set goals for where we're going next year. And then don't forget, keep on monitoring all of these metrics. So once you plan, you need to keep on monitoring. We had a quote in corporate that was what gets measured gets managed. And it sounds so simple, but I mentioned the KPIs for studios earlier. If you have like a monthly dashboard where you're looking at some of these key performance indicators month over month, you're paying attention. And then that allows you to really actually manage your studio from a place of data and then manage that according to your goals. So it really just all comes together, and as the finances as the heart of your business to help you really direct and sail your business with data.
Right. Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And then do you recommend, maybe for people who are kind of just starting out, if they're not in a place to hire, a bookkeeper at this point, like setting, a calendar, maybe like a time in your calendar, like each month to go through this, or how do you kind of stay on top of this? Because I kind of imagine for some of us who don't love the accounting side of things, we go into, we feel inspired from this conversation. We go into it feeling like, yes, I'm going to crush this. And then it becomes sort of like, the average New Year's resolution where a couple months into the new year, it's like, oh, right, I said I wasn't going to eat sugar, or, I said I was only going to drink wine on Friday nights.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday.
All my vices.
Same.
I love the idea of a calendar invite, but I encourage you all to think of it as missing a meeting with your CEO, right? Mm-hmm. So if you had a boss, would you miss that meeting? Absolutely not, right? So even though you might dread it, you might not enjoy what your boss has to say, you might not like them during this process, but you're not going to miss that meeting. And so I need each and every one of you to think of it as put in a monthly calendar invite for yourself that is a meeting you cannot miss. It is on, I would say, within the first 10 days of the month to review the previous month's numbers. So what we do when we send clients their financials, we send it to them by the 10th of each month so that you don't want to look at the financials from the previous month on the 20th. It's too late to do anything. So you really want to do it right after the month closes. And then that way you can use that information to make business decisions. Just don't break that calendar invite. And there are other resources out there too. There's planners and books that can also help you get guided through this process and help be your accountability partner. But the best thing you're going to be able to do is put the calendar invite and do not break it.
Right. So hold yourself accountable to making sure that you show up for that, just as you would if you worked a corporate job and you were meeting your CEO.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that that's, something that is really hard as an independent contractor or a small business owner, like especially for the independent yoga teachers listening. Like I think that comes with a certain mindset shift where you take yourself seriously as a business and you remember that showing up for that type of meeting is just important as showing up for a class that you have to teach.
It really is just as important, if not more important, right? Because if you don't know where you're making money and spending money, you can't improve, right? You can't figure out what to do more of and what to stop doing, or how much to set aside for taxes. It really helps get you prepared. And it is a mindset shift. And the other mindset shift that I encourage you all to embrace is a lot of people tell us, once they start looking at this information on a regular basis, they're like, man, I feel like growth is possible now. Like I didn't even know what I was doing. Now that I found out I'm profitable, I'm like on top of the world. I can go kick ass. You know what I mean? So don't just be afraid of the numbers. The numbers might actually be better than you think they are. And now you're like, wow, I'm killing it. I need to go double down, and it can be super empowering. So numbers aren't always bad news.
Yeah. I think that that's a good mind shift or mindset shift that's important for us as well as yoga teachers and yoga studio owners. So thank you for that reminder. And I know you have a fabulous resource that you've created, which is the Profit Planner. Can you tell me a little bit about the Profit Planner and how, yoga teachers and yoga entrepreneurs can use it to stay on top of their financials?
Yeah. So we talked about having that accountability partner. This book series is created to help entrepreneurs create that momentum. So I'm a big runner. And so I always say, you won't go out and just run a marathon, right? If I say I'm going to go run a marathon, I'm not going to run a marathon tomorrow. I'm going to start small and I'm going to build the foundations and I'm going to create momentum and take one step at a time. And so what the Profit Planner Foundations book is meant to do is help you every week. We set a goal. We have some financial information and background for you. It's not overwhelming. We really took the accounting terms out of it and really made it for entrepreneurs. And then every day there's an action task. It should take you no longer than 10 to 15 minutes. And there's an action task to help you get momentum. By the end of the foundations book, you really have momentum. It's like running the 10K. And then from there, we have a second book called Financials, where it's going to help you dig deeper. But it's like having an accountability partner because it sits right next to you and saying, hey, you have work to do. CEO, you need to open up the book and get yourself guided through that information. So it's really designed to take the overwhelm out of accounting and help you build the foundation so that you can start to understand the numbers and use that information to help you propel your business.
Amazing. I love that. And if people are interested in getting their hands on a copy of that, where can they find that?
You can go to profitplannerbookkeeping.com. And I would love for you to go to profitplannerbookkeeping.com/yoga KPI. I'll make sure that you have this link to put in the show notes. I had mentioned key performance indicators a few times. This is an 8 KPI dashboard. There's a Google Doc as well as a PDF printout so that you can start to not just know your numbers, but then use them to make changes. It's been super valuable for our studio owner clients, and I'm very excited to get this in the hands of all your listeners.
Amazing. And can you say that URL once again?
Yes, profitplannerbookkeeping.com/yoga KPI.
Perfect. And I'll make sure there's a link for that in the show notes as well, in case anyone is walking, driving, doing something where they can't use their hands to type that in their phone right away. Yeah. And I love that you've provided that for us. So thank you so much for that. And Danielle, thank you so much for all this information. I feel, the number side of things is not my area of expertise, nor is it my area of passion. So you've definitely kind of reminded me of the importance of this. And I hope that, other people are feeling as inspired as I am. So thank you so much.
Good. I hope so too. Yes, absolutely. My pleasure.
And if people want to learn more about you, is there anywhere else they can go to find you?
Yeah, I love to hang out on social media. We are really making an effort to put out accounting and finance tips and tricks designed especially for entrepreneurs. Come to Danielle Hayden _OH, and you can find tons of tips and tricks and information there. And comments, ask questions. We really try to create a safe space for entrepreneurs. There's no stupid questions here, really, promise. And come ask questions, contact us. We want to hear your questions. We want to help you. It is our mission to help entrepreneurs grow and thrive.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation and for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, friends, I hope that you enjoyed that episode of the podcast with Danielle Hayden. You can find the bonus episode with Danielle diving a little bit deeper into taxes, accounting, bookkeeping, and all the mindset work with this over on the Patreon feed. So that is MBM Behind the Scenes, and it is at patreon.com/MBM Yoga. It is definitely a worthwhile episode to check out. Plus, there's tons of other goodies back there. So have a look at patreon.com/MBM Yoga, and I'll see you next week. Namaste. Thanks again to our sponsor, Offering Tree. To start teaching more and managing less, head on over to offeringtree.com/MBOM to get an exclusive discount. Once again, that's offeringtree.com/MBOM to get a discount. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbmyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbmyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.